Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show right here on Clemson at the Voice of College Football. Thank you guys so much for joining me. We got 14 people already in the live chat. Appreciate each and every one of you. While you're in here, go ahead and hit that like button for us. It really helps us out on these live videos. Consider subscribing to the channel if you are not already. We are on the road to 6,000 subscribers. Your help with that would be greatly appreciated. Two more things. We have channel memberships available for those of you that want to support the show on a monthly basis. Go ahead and hit that channel membership and join the Voice of College Football Clemson channel and support what me and Jordan do here on the show. Also, last but not least, we got the Super Chat feature available for you guys to support the show in that way as well. We're going to talk, obviously, a little official visit weekend, and then just kind of leave a loose structure to the show tonight. Get your questions in early in tonight's show. We're going to be diving into the comment section really early into the show, and we are going to chop it up with you guys. So whatever you guys want to talk about tonight, get into the comment section. Start asking your questions. We'll lead the show with one segment talking about the official visit weekend, and then we are going to go right into your guys' questions, comments, and anything you guys want to talk about in the show tonight. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, stick around with us. But with all of that said, and without further ado, I'm going to bring on my co-host, Jordan Bowman. Jordan, what's up, man? How you doing tonight?
Good, man. Just glad to be here. I know, we want to apologize about the short notice on the schedule change, but obviously this was something that needed to happen. We've been doing good, man. Like we had a good streak going of 8 o'clock Wednesday night, but life happens. You're a softball dad.
I am a softball dad. It consumes my life at times, and that's the reason for the schedule change. My daughter got her summer training schedule, and I just gotta push it back an hour. So instead of moving days and trying to figure out what else works for both me and Jordan and obviously the audience here, we just decided to move it to the right for 1 hour, a little bit later, but we'll make it work. And we appreciate you guys sticking with us. But it's been a while since we've had a schedule change, so I guess we were due. We were due.
Yeah, we definitely were due. But speaking of softball, but kind of kick off the show, obviously big weekend on the diamond for Clemson softball this past weekend. Unfortunately, didn't go their way in the super regionals up in Austin, Texas. But really proud of that group, how they turned around a 2-6 start. It looked like it was going to be a long year, a team with a lot of freshmen and sophomores that were still kind of, stepping into their new roles. We weren't sure if they were going to be able to figure it out, but then they go on that winning streak. They get big wins over number 1 Tennessee. They split the series with South Carolina, who was really, really good this year. And then wind up winning the ACC tournament. Like, it's incredible what they were able to accomplish, and they were so close to accomplishing even more.
So close, man.
Just proud of Coach Rittman, proud of those girls. That was a valiant, just a great historic season in program history. And I didn't even think this would be the team to do what they did. They got our first win in a super regional.
First ever in program history. And, the crazy thing about it is, looking back at this team, you go all the way back to the Clearwater tournament that they kicked the season off with. I think they started the season like 1-6, and then I think only lost 6 games the rest of the way, which is just a feat in and of itself. And this team I think was pretty special. They had some really good. It's a very young team, which is good for the future of Clemson softball. But with that said, they had some really good veteran leadership on this team, with people like Maddie Moore and Abby Vieira and others that kind of anchored this team with a little bit of veteran leadership. Brooke McCubbin is another one that was absolutely sensational this year. So it was a great softball season. I enjoyed watching it. Unfortunately, we let the opportunity slip down in Austin, Texas. Clemson had that super regional in hand. And frankly, I think we're probably better than Texas as a softball team. We just, we made a couple mistakes that we couldn't recover from. You go out there, you punch them in the mouth game one, and you take game one in their stadium. And then game two is looking really good, right? It was tied up. And then bottom of the eighth, you got runners at second and third, no outs, and you're like, man, we're about to walk this thing off and go to our very first Women's College World Series, and it just wasn't meant to be. Once we lost game two, I was extremely worried about game three because of our pitching situation. We really had a two-headed horse when it came to pitching. It was a recipe, like the whole second half of the season was a recipe of Basinger starting and Brooke McCubbin coming in and finishing every big game. And It worked. It brought us an ACC championship, the first ACC championship of program history outside of the regular season one that we won, and our first super regional win. So great milestones for this team, but definitely more to come for this group because there's a lot of freshmen that contributed in a big way for this team. So that spells excitement for the future. But, shout out to the softball team and the big season that they had.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Excited to see how that group develops and what they can accomplish next year. And then, on the other diamond, a big weekend for the guys.
Absolutely.
Really, the ending was not pretty, but I think they did a lot for themselves over the weekend, going on that run to make it to the ACC championship game. Yeah. Just after the series against Duke, there was a lot of spinning in the mud and a lot of just uncertainty about kind of where this team was heading direction wise. But then you get that sweep over Pitt heading into the ACC championship, and then you rattle off 3 straight wins that I think you needed to strengthen your hosting chances, and I think you did that.
Absolutely.
So the game against North Carolina, I mean, it is what it is. They played one less game, and your pitching was pretty spent in a situation where your staff was already kind of depleted. So I mean, it was what it was. So and it was cool to see them. It's cool to see Clemson host again for the 3rd straight season. They're one of two programs in college baseball that have now hosted in 2023, 2024, and 2025. So I think that's a pretty notable.
That's pretty amazing. That's not an easy feat to do. But yeah, shout out to the baseball team. They've recovered nicely, man, because I mean that stretch, kind of where we got beat up by NC State and we just kind of fell apart towards the end of the season a little bit. And, you finish the season with that Boston College series where you kind of, it's not a great baseball team, but it's good to kind of get some of that confidence back. And then you roll right into the ACC tournament and they, built, I feel like, a lot of momentum heading into the NCAA tournament starting this weekend, obviously with hosting the regional, and a lot of good momentum. And, it was kind of anticlimactic at the end with the whole North Carolina beatdown. But honestly, I don't think that matters very much. If anything, that'll fuel some fire heading into the NCAA tournament, in my opinion. And let's go see what kind of noise we can make, right? We're hosting. It feels good to have, playoff baseball in DKS, and it's going to be exciting. I was actually at Clemson this weekend. part of the reason of the show change, the 9 o'clock hour versus the 8 o'clock hour, is obviously my daughter's softball. She plays travel softball, and we were down in South Carolina, Tiger River, close to Greenville. Actually stayed at Airbnb in Greenville, and we played our tournament this weekend. And Monday was her birthday, so we drove the extra 30 minutes in the opposite direction of my house and went and saw Tiger Town and walked around the shops, and actually went over to the football stadium, got in. Shout out to us for getting in the football stadium. They had one of the roll-up doors up, and they were doing some maintenance on the field. So I figured, why not? I should just take this opportunity to walk down there. And I didn't walk on the grass. I stayed in my place, but took a couple pictures down there, had a good time, and then walked over to the softball and baseball stadium over there as well. So it was a good time in Tiger Town for us to see it, and exciting. The baseball team was there taking BP. You could hear them in their indoor batting facility there, just blaring music and just getting swings in. So shout out to them, and hopefully we can win our regional and head out to super regionals and see what this baseball team can do in this postseason.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. I think they got a pretty manageable draw. But I don't think it's the easiest draw in the world, but I don't think it's the worst that I've seen. I think West Virginia is very capable, but Kentucky they're a team that kind of plays a lot like Clemson, but with even less power. They have phenomenal pitching, so I think they'll be an interesting team, just being an SEC team.
Yeah,
and obviously, Upstate is a good 4 seed in anybody's regional. So it's not the easiest draw in the world, but it's certainly not the hardest. And I think Clemson is easily the best team. And I expect them to make it out of that regional. But it's baseball; anything can happen. So
anything can happen, as we know. Anything can happen in baseball. You can go cold at the wrong time. Your pitcher doesn't have a great outing, and you got to deplete your bullpen in a game where you weren't expecting to. All those things are factors, and all those things can play into, what can happen in any given weekend, especially in, a tournament like the regionals. So, but much like you, I fully expect them to make it out of the regionals and then see where we stack up in the super regionals and beyond. Hopefully, maybe we can make it to Omaha this year. We shall see.
It's been a long time, brother.
It's been a while. I feel like we're due, but then again, who knows?
Yeah.
But shout out to everybody in the comment section real quick before we continue on with the show. We got 22 people in the live chat right now. Go ahead and hit that like button for us while you're in here. Help support the show in that way. We got channel memberships available for you guys if you would like to support us in that way. But just hit that like button and subscribe, and that'll be plenty enough for us. Tiggs is the first commenter in the comment section tonight, all the way back at 8:11. He was in here early, waiting for us to hop on here. So thank you for being here, sir. Intelligent Savage, as always, is in here. Thank you for being in here, sir. Let's see. David, our channel member. You see that symbol beside his name there. Thank you for being, first of all, a channel member and showing up in the comment section and chopping it up with us each and every time. Shout out to you, David, for your support. John Sarian is in here. Let's see who else commented. Clemson alums is in here. Let's see who else. Trying not to miss anybody. Wet Socks. Yeah, you did miss me in Tiger Town, sir. I was there Monday, Memorial Day, and shout out to all the Gold Star families and those that paid the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you to their families while we're speaking about Memorial Day. So thank you to all the Gold Star families out there. But yes, I was in Tiger Town. I enjoyed myself immensely. It was great to be back and just kind of see the sights of Clemson again. It's like, it may sound kind of cliche or corny or whatever you want to call it, but like every time I go to Clemson, I fall back in love with that place. Like it's it's a beautiful campus. It's amazing. I remember, my wife obviously didn't grow up a college football fan at all, much less a Clemson fan. And when I took her to Clemson for the first time, she was like, okay, I get it. So that's how special that place is, in my opinion. So,
no, I mean 100%. There's something in these hills, man. Like that's it's a saying, but you do feel it when you get on campus, and it's given me a lot of great memories over the years, and it never gets old. I can't wait to be down there for the opener. It's been a long time coming, so
I'm gonna try to. I was talking to the wife. I'm actually gonna try to go to that game if I can find tickets that won't cost me a mortgage. So,
yeah, the ticket prices are definitely they're definitely enlarged or whatever word, inflated is probably the right word right now, but it'll probably be a little bit more manageable as we get closer to the game. So we'll see, but it is the biggest home opener that Clemson's had really in 12 years. So
I would love to be a part of that atmosphere, because I know it's going to be off the chain, man. It's going to be insane, and you don't get very many opportunities like that. So if I can make it happen, I'm definitely going to try to be there. For the
imagine we do like a live post game show at like Triple T's or something.
That'd be great. We could absolutely do that. That'd be so much fun.
Yeah.
And some of these degenerates that hang out with us in the off season, in the comment section, could come hang out with us in person for once. That'd be really cool. So let's work on that. Try to make that happen. Sorry, guys. Tiger Tom said, been out of the loop. It's all right, brother. No time like the present to get spun back up on all things Clemson football. All right, I guess we should dive into the show tonight, Jordan. We'll go ahead and start with our one and only segment that we have planned for tonight. And then, like I said, keep getting your comments in, keep getting your questions in. We're going to spend a fair amount of time with you guys tonight, chopping it up in the comment section and talking about what you want to talk about, because we appreciate each and every one of you for showing up every week. So tonight's show is your show. So get your comments in, get your questions in, and we will get to it right after this. Official visit weekend is finally upon us, Jordan. We've been talking about this for months, going back to the elite retreat way back a couple months ago, when we had a great turnout, and we had I think we rattled off 6 or 8 commits immediately following the elite retreat back in March. But here we are, the end of May. It's official visit weekend this coming weekend. We got a long list of guys that are coming into town. Clemson has already had a ton of success in the 2026 recruiting cycle. We already got, I think we're up to 15 verbal commits at this point for the class, well inside the top 5 as of right now. That may change going forward. But again, it just speaks to the quality of player that Clemson has verbal commitments from so far, and then the guys that we are continuing to go after. And that's going to be the theme for the official visit weekend this coming weekend. We got a bunch of big names coming to town, some guys that we are looking to gain some ground on and possibly close a couple books and get some guys locked up with some verbal commits coming out of this weekend. Traditionally, the official visit weekend in the summer for Clemson has been huge. And I anticipate another boost in momentum for Clemson recruiting as far as the 2026 cycle goes coming out of this official visit weekend. I know we don't have time to go through the exhaustive list of guys that will be on hand for this official visit weekend, both guys that are already verbally committed and guys that we are looking to lock up. But let's just highlight a few of the names, Jordan, that people should be paying attention to coming in this weekend. The likes of like Carter Shrugs and guys that, Matt Luke is looking to lock up. We still got a couple pieces along that offensive line that we're looking to lock up. And then some other big prospects that we're looking at as well. So not going through an exhaustive list, but who should Clemson Tiger fans be paying attention to this weekend as we enter this weekend? And is there any possibility, not that we're going to make any predictions here, we don't throw out crystal balls, we don't work for 247, right? But any sort of guys that you think Clemson's got a good chance at either locking up this weekend or gaining a whole lot of ground on the competition out there?
Yeah, I'll start the segment off with a couple of names that we've talked about, and I'm sure a lot of Clemson fans have had their eyes on throughout the cycle that will not be in Clemson. I'll start with top 100 cornerback Samari Matthews. He has decided he will not be coming to Clemson this weekend. This is not a surprise. Nope. Anytime his name has come up, I told you I felt like that recruitment was trending away from Clemson, and it was made official this week. So Samari Matthews will not be in Clemson. Another name that recently scratched his name off the list is running back Carson Baker out of Forsyth, Georgia. That one was definitely shaping up to be a South Carolina, Georgia, potentially battle. Texas and Michigan are in there. So that's one of your top running back targets that's now off the board. You still have Jay Lamar, who is scheduled to come in this weekend, but Carson Baker, that's a big name. He will not be attending. And then the last name I wanted to mention is wide receiver Sedarian Morgan. He has also officially decided he will not be coming to Clemson this weekend. So that leaves two receivers that are coming in for official visit weekend in Devin Fitzgerald and Craig Dandridge. So just wanted to highlight those guys real quick. But in terms of the guys that, Clemson is certainly high on the list for, and some of the guys, the headliners, obviously, I think the big name is linebacker Tyler Atkinson, who notably has only announced Clemson as his official visit. Clemson has its only official visit so far. Now, like I said last week, I don't think that's going to be that's not going to be true. Probably here in the next week or so. Tyler Atkinson is a kid that's just been he's kind of been slow about announcing where he's going to be. Usually, it's been like the week of when he decides that he's going to be at a particular school. So that's just kind of how he's gone about doing things. But Clemson has done a phenomenal job. They did a really great job when he came in for the Elite Retreat weekend. And I think they have as good a shot as anybody, to be honest. I think they've gained a lot of ground in this recruitment. I don't expect a commitment, but he does plan to decide in the summer. So we'll see what happens. You get a kid on campus, you never know. When people remember when Peter Woods came to Clemson for his official visit weekend. He gave Clemson his silent commitment that weekend, but he didn't formally announce until July. So that's sometimes those types of things happen. I'm not saying that's the case with Tyler Atkinson. His name is going to command a lot of NIL dollars, and that's going to be a factor in this recruitment. But like I said, I think Clemson has a legitimate shot in this recruitment, and it didn't feel like that a few months ago. So just wanted to throw that out there. On the defensive line, I want to throw out guys like Bryce Perry-White at defensive tackle. He projects to be a defensive tackle. He's been recruited at both defensive tackle and defensive end. But I think Clemson likes him the most at defensive tackle. I've said it time and time again. I think this is one you have to go and win. This is a recruitment you have to go and win. There's a lot of things that are in your favor in that recruitment. This weekend is as good a time as any to see if you can lock him up. Another name on the defensive tackle group that recently emerged this week, Keyshawn Stansel, announced his offer today or yesterday. This offer was a long time coming. And he finally gets it heading into his official visit weekend. Clemson has done a lot of the groundwork already prior to him getting this offer. And I really like where they stand with him. And then at defensive end, J.R. Hardrick, we've talked about him a good bit out of Tennessee. I think Clemson has been the apple in his eye, or whatever the saying is. I don't even remember what it is. For a long time, he finally gets that offer. He's bringing his entire family. That's basically
a good sign.
With him on his official visit weekend. Those when recruits do that, those things tend to go well. I remember who was it? I had the name in my head, but I forget one of the defensive back commits from last year that basically brought his entire family to Clemson before he committed. I want to say it was Corey and Gibson, but I'm not sure. When guys bring their families, to Clemson, there's and not just like their parents, but like extended family.
Yeah, typically they're searching for that nod from everybody that's coming.
Yeah,
and then they already got a pretty good idea going in. They just want everybody to come with them, and then everybody to give them that so that they can go ahead and lock in their commitment.
Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely think that he's a guy that I think Clemson is in a good position for, coming in the weekend. On the offensive line, you mentioned it, when you kind of teed it up. Carter Scruggs, I think, is the name that I think everybody should keep their eye on the most. Obviously, you got guys like Leo Delaney, Kenny Ogboko, who I think Clemson is still kind of sneakily hanging around in that recruitment. But I think Carter Scruggs is the guy I think they're the closest to potentially locking down.
Yeah.
But that race is still not completely clear. But I think Clemson is in the forefront, and this weekend will go a long way. So I'm keeping an eye on him. And then I talked about wide receiver. I think I tend to think Clemson stays at the 3 that they have. I don't see a way where like say like a Devin Fitzgerald, maybe he gets the offer, but I don't know if it's one where Clemson will be pushing him to commit. I'll just say it that way. But you never know. Maybe they decide that they just feel like they want to take that fourth guy. But I tend to think that Clemson stays at 3 with Naeem Burrows, Connor Salmon, and Gordon Sellers.
Which ain't too shabby.
Yeah, no, that ain't too shabby. That's nobody here is complaining. That's for sure. Right. Better not be. That's a hell of a receiver haul.
Yeah, if you complain about that, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. But something to keep an eye on, though, for sure. Definitely something to keep an eye on. Let's see. Anybody else I want to hit on? Oh, safety is another position that I'm keeping an eye on. You've got 2 coming in, and Joey O'Brien and Tylen Wilson. Joey O'Brien just recently confirmed that he will be here in Clemson on Friday for the official visit weekend. Tylen Wilson has been on the books since last week. So Nicky Khan, he's been doing the thing, man. This has been it's kind of been a revelation. Clemson has historically not recruited at the highest level at safety. I think they've done a good job with development at that position, but they've never been one to go after, the star-studded names or like the top 150 type safeties. That hasn't been the norm. You've had your guys here and there, the Andrew Makubas, the Ricardo Jones of the world, but that's those guys have been few and far between. It's mostly been guys like the Kayvon Wallaces and the R.J. Mickens, the Jadar Johnsons. Like you didn't have all these star-studded names. So you're seeing kind of a shift in Clemson's recruiting efforts at that position a little bit, and they've been going after some bigger names, and so it's going to be interesting to see. But I like both of these guys a lot as recruits. Joey O'Brien, I'm not entirely sure if either of them I would say Clemson is the leader for, but Tylen Wilson in particular, he's kind of hard to figure out because he's been a guy that hasn't been very open throughout his recruitment. He just kept things close to the vest. So that while that doesn't give you a lot of clarity, it also means that anything can happen this weekend. So keep an eye on that position group as well. So I think I hit on all the guys I really wanted to. So if you guys have any questions about a particular player, particular recruit, heading into the weekend, then feel free to drop it into the comment section. But it's kind of my recruiting official visit weekend primer, so to speak. And yeah, if you guys have any further questions about a particular player that's coming in, then feel free to drop it.
I got a question from Tiggs for you, Jordan. Any chance Taylor Atkinson commits to Clemson shortly?
I won't say there's no chance, but I'm leaning towards he takes other visits, and but like I said, you never know what happens when these kids get on campus, and Clemson has certainly been the hot. I think they've been the hottest team in his recruitment right now. Doesn't mean they're they're the leader, but I think they've gained the most ground, so to speak. And Georgia has already started looking at other linebacker options too, because it seems like they're starting to feel the pressure as the odds-on favorite. And okay, maybe we need to see if we have an out. I think Clemson has put all their chips into the onto the Tyler Atkinson table, and I think that could be to their benefit. But we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. One from you from John Sarian, Jordan. Will Devin Fitzgerald get an offer immediately on arrival or right as he departs? Surely he'll get one, right?
I think so, but I don't think it's going to be a situation where Clemson is going to push him to commit. Like I said, I tend to think that he will be he's a guy that to keep an eye on, and he'll be a nice piece if say one of your receiver commits, jump ship. But I don't know. I tend to think that Clemson stays at 3, and so that's where I think things are right now.
Absolutely. David says, I see defensive end numbers picking up. Looks like 3 coming in this weekend.
Yeah. I already mentioned, J.R. Hardrick coming in. Zach Groves is another guy. I don't feel good about Clemson's chances especially in the Zach Groves recruitment right now, but we'll see what happens when you get them on campus. Sometimes things change, but the efforts are certainly there, and I don't think it's an effort thing with Clemson right now. So, but I think they definitely need to push hard this weekend. Dre Quinn, I think you're definitely still in it for, and this weekend will go a long way in determining whether or not you win that recruitment.
Yeah, absolutely. John says, I'm fully expecting Tate Reynolds' evaluation by the experts to jump after his 2 invites, especially Elite 11. Not that rankings mean so much, but the kid is getting a bum rap.
Yeah, if you guys follow me on Twitter, I tweeted out, when it was officially announced that he would be an Elite 11 finalist, I said I think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback in the class by the time it ends. I just, when you look at his career trajectory, a guy that hasn't been playing football very long, but you saw that in his first year as a starter was pretty average as a passer. Didn't throw for a ton of touchdowns. He had some turnover issues, but he ran for 1 million yards, and you saw the athleticism and the raw tools on tape. And then you saw the jump he made from that first year to this past year as a junior, where he's one of the best players in the state, and obviously the dual sport background is something that recruiting analysts and experts love. I mean, I think when you couple that, all those things together, and just the career trajectory to this point, and the jump that I think he's going to make as a senior, I think he's a guy that's going to be tough to ignore recruiting landscape. So I definitely expect him to see a huge ratings bump, and he's already starting to see it as he continues to show out at camps and stuff. And this Elite 11 finalist nod is definitely going to go a long way towards that. So, yep, shout out to Tate Reynolds. I mean, I think Clemson got them one. I really do.
Tiggs asked, do we have any running backs visiting?
Yes. As I already mentioned, running back Jay Lamar. I think he's the guy that you ideally, if you can get him, I think that definitely assuages a lot of concerns. Clemson only plans to take one. If he is your one, I think that's a really good pickup. But Georgia certainly has been the odds-on favorite right now. So I think he has some ground to make up. So yeah, we'll see. Sure. Some other names that Clemson has been keeping on the notice is CJ Givers. I tend to think he'll be the guy that Clemson pivots to if Jay Lamar ends up picking elsewhere. But they with CJ Spiller and Clemson, they tend to be this is our guy until he's not type of outfit when it comes to recruiting the running back position. So they're all in on Jay Lamar this weekend. If he picks elsewhere, then they're going to pivot. So we'll see what happens.
Wet Sox asks, is Atkinson the only linebacker visiting?
Yes. Caleb Gordon, I've talked about him in the past. He's now officially a scratch for the official visit weekend. And I talked about it last week. This is not a surprise to Clemson, and Clemson is not all that upset about it. They are, like I said, they are all in on Tyler Atkinson, and they think he is of the utmost importance in this class. So they are all in on him.
Good follow-up question by David on that. Is Clemson not recruiting Caleb Gordon anymore?
He's a guy I'm not keeping track of anymore. I'll just say that.
I think there's enough said there.
Yeah.
All right, Intelligent Savage has got a good one. He said, what recruit are you guys most excited to have on campus this weekend, not named Tyler Atkinson?
Most excited to have on campus. That's a good one. I mean, if you had a guy like Sadarian Morgan still coming like that, he probably would have been my answer. But I think I already talked about Bryce Perry White a good bit. I think he's a special talent, and I think that's a recruitment you have to win. So I'd probably say him. I think the two safeties, Joey O'Brien and Tylen Wilson, are really talented football players. I think they have a potential nod there, but I think I would go Bryce Perry White or Carter Scruggs.
Carter Scruggs is who I was going to say.
Yeah,
that dude's frame is big, ridiculous. Yeah,
he's been going crazy in the camps too. He's already a pretty highly regarded prospect, but I think he's got even more of a jump to make.
He's just mauling people, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like that dude's got a potential to be really special. So
yeah,
definitely excited to get him on campus. Hopefully we can get him to shut it down. I don't see any more recruiting questions. So we'll leave recruiting there for now. You guys can still ask recruiting questions. Just kind of wrap up that segment real quick for editing purposes.
Yes.
And we'll be right back after this message from our very own Mark Rogers.
You can make a difference here at the Voice of College Football. Use the Amazon link. Financially contribute to the Voice of College Football without spending a penny. Same shopping experience. It's easy. Go to any video on any channel. Go to the description section and grab the link right next to the capital letters that say Amazon. Use that link, and Amazon will instantaneously convert to your account, settings, history, everything intact, just like whatever link you use right now. No difference. Pay no attention to the product that you see right there. Just go search what you want. Don't forget the Amazon link. Thank you for your support. Sincerely, the voice of college football.
All right, you heard Mark there. Go check out the Amazon link. I know all you guys buy stuff on Amazon from time to time, so throw us a bone. Use the Amazon link. It helps support the voice of college football and this channel as well. So thank you guys so much for that. A couple things to get to really quick before we get back to the comment section. We got 30 people in the live chat. Thank you guys so much for being here. But if you guys did not know, the Voice of College Football officially has a website. The Voice of College Football is showing right here on the screen. This is your one-stop shop for all things Voice of College Football. There's great articles written over there by people within the Voice of College Football umbrella. You see the live schedule over there to the left. You got all your news articles that you can go write about. You can go read about. You can read about your various hosts that are with the network. You got various forums on there, different teams that you can go chat it up with fans of other teams or fans of your team as well. So go check out the Voice of College Football website. Create an account over there. And I promise you, there's tons of good content. You will not regret it. And it helps you stay up to date on all things Voice of College Football. And then last thing I'll hit on before we move on back to the comment section, our Twitter and our Instagram, our social media accounts. Okay, make sure you guys are going to check us out on Twitter or X. Make sure you're checking us out on Instagram, the Voice of College Football Network. That's our official X account right there. The best discussion, debate, and analysis, of course, with no off season. And then I'm going to pull up our Instagram page right here so you guys can get a look at that as well. If you guys have Instagram, go give the Voice of College Football a follow over there as well. Help us grow that page as well, along with all the rest of our social media. So thank you guys so much for that. Thank you for your support there. We really do appreciate it. Also, make sure you're following Jordan on Twitter. He's a great follow over there, Jobo0209. And then my Twitter handle as well, TPC_CFB. Thank you guys so much for your support. And with that said, let's get back to the comment section. Intelligent Savage says, with Baker running back being removed from our list, who, if any, running backs may enter as a replacement name to look for?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I think Jay Lamar is the guy that Clemson is going to be all in on this weekend. I mentioned C.J. Givers is a guy they potentially, pivot to if Jay Lamar ends up picking the Dogs. I do think that, Clemson is going to put all their chips into that basket and see what happens. But, Georgia is the odds-on favorite, and he's also been to Miami a lot. So it's something to consider. But I think Jay Lamar is the guy that I think you need to go ahead and try and lock down if you can.
Let me see. All right, question from Tiggs. He says, does Tom Allen have enough time to fix the run defense?
Now, I think that's a great question.
That is a great question.
Does he have enough time? I think so. I mean, in the sense that defending the run it's hard, but it's not complicated.
There you go. That's a great statement.
So, I think it's just a matter. I mean, he has the talent. I mean, he's not walking into a situation where he's got a lot of guys that are just unfamiliar with playing high level college football. Like this is a defense that's bringing back a ton of talent, particularly up front. And so, I think it should be enough time. I mean, his scheme is not overly complex, and he's very much about the basics of defense. Stopping the run, getting tackles for loss, and then being able to defend the pass. But I think as far as the run defense is concerned, it really is just a matter of just making sure the guys understand where they need to be and getting them to play with the level of intensity and take a lot of the thinking out of it and the second guessing out of it, to where the guys can just play, because you have the athletes. I mean, you're not an unathletic defense by any means. I mean, you've got some physical freaks on that defensive line, and you're starting two linebackers certainly are guys that can run, especially downhill. So, I mean, I really think we should expect a significant jump. Now, will they be the best run defense in the country? I don't know. I guess that remains to be seen. But I think that the expectations for a significant improvement are pretty reasonable with the group you have and the experience that Tom Allen brings to that position and all the support that you've hired this offseason as well. I think everything points to this group making a jump in that department. So. That in a long answer, answering a very simple question. Yes.
Yeah, I think he does as well. Like I completely agree with you. For a couple of reasons. It's the simplification of the defensive scheme that will happen under Tom Allen. Right. I feel like our defense got a little complicated, and maybe guys were not playing with instincts and speed as much as they were trying to overthink things and remember a bunch of different assignments. And I think that partially contributed to some of the lack of run fits that you saw, the poor tackling that you saw, the sometimes our linebackers looking a bit slow or a step behind where they should be, things like that. And I think it was just maybe an overcomplication of schematics. And I don't think that's going to be the case with Tom Allen. I think his main goal is to simplify things and let you play with instincts and speed. And that typically results in a pretty good product on the field, especially when you look at the roster that Clemson has on the defensive side of the ball and the playmakers that are over there. You let those guys just get out there, run free, and play with their instincts and their speed, typically good things are going to happen. And if you look at Tom Allen's track record throughout all of his stops, he produces in year one. And just like you said, Jordan, he doesn't have, this group that's devoid of talent. Talent was not the problem with Clemson's defense last year, which is the reason that there was a change made at the defensive coordinator position. Not throwing shade at anybody. It's just the fact of the matter. It's the reality. So I fully expect that Tom Allen will have plenty of time to correct the run defense. I think there will be a certain difference in intensity that defense plays with this year. Not only the addition of Tom Allen, but you think about the addition of a guy like Ben Boulware. That dude's like certifiably insane when he's on the football field. I imagine his coaching style is very similar to the player that he was. So that's going to amp it up from an intensity standpoint as well. And you got players growing up, right? You're going to have a year two, Sammy Brown, that got a ton of playing time and experience last year, right? You got a Wade Woodaz in his final year as a Clemson Tiger that hopefully, dropped a couple pounds and got a little bit of his speed back that he may have lost last year by maybe just bulking up just a tiny bit too much. Not that he was out of shape or anything. I just felt like he put maybe a little too much weight on last season and was just a step behind of what he needs to be. And then, I think our defense is going to be vastly improved this year in that particular category of run defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and it's also it's a preparation thing too. I think that's one of the things that jumped out to me when Tom Allen, talked about, his first few days on the job was, when he was going back and looking at the practice film and the practice tape and seeing how Clemson prepared under the previous defensive staff, it just wasn't. It just wasn't it. It was immediate. Like he didn't even need to watch that much of it. He's like, this ain't it.
Yeah.
And I think that honestly, that was the biggest thing, because they were a reflection of who was coaching them last year.
Absolutely. 100%. I mean, how many times, Jordan, did we talk about it last year when we were talking about this defense, sometimes immediately following wins, and we were just like, there's a lack of intensity, right? Like there was a lack of like finishing games. And hearing from Tom Allen, to your point, when he took over, that's exactly what he saw in practice, a lack of intensity in practice. That's not going to be the case this year. There will not be a lack of intensity on the defensive side of the ball when it comes to preparing for games and practicing. Because Tom Allen's a maniac on the field. And then, you got young Ben Boulware there, first-year linebacker coach, and he's probably going to put his head through somebody's helmet if they're not intense enough. He's out there doing mat drills and weighted vests with his dudes. So I think, that intensity is definitely going to be at a completely different level this year.
Absolutely.
David says, remember when Georgia had NFL offensive lines back when Matt Luke coached there?
I mean, I do. I mean, and it really hasn't even been, that reason, or, that far back that they've had NFL offensive lines. It's just, I think you saw a significant step back last year from what they normally have been.
I think everybody was probably a bit taken back or surprised by the lack of running game that Georgia put on the field last year. That's just not something you think about when you think about Georgia and a Kirby Smart coach team. Like, you think of good defense and you think of a great running game. And they did not run the ball well at all last year. And obviously that starts up front.
Yep.
But you can't have them back, Georgia. So kick rocks. I don't know what to tell you. David comes in and says, is Dabo and the family going on vacation to Australia this year? I wonder why he's asking about Australia.
Yeah, beats me. I wonder what position groups.
I can't think of, what would he go find in Australia that Clemson really needs this season? I don't know. I wish he was, but no, I don't think he is. John says, if Swinney goes down under and can't find a two-legged kicker, maybe he should bring back a kangaroo. They can kick like nobody's business. I mean, we could probably suit up a kangaroo, right? Is there any NCAA violation for suiting up a kangaroo?
Shoot, it beats me. I don't think so, but.
All right. Intelligent Savage got a question about the video game that's dropping with some video game CF22 info dropping tomorrow. Virginia Tech Stadium song Metallica, Enter Sandman, and Wisconsin's Jump Around. Are there any stadium songs we are known for playing in the stadium before or during games?
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's not really like there's not really like a song that I would say that Clemson is like known for. I mean, they have their like they have their songs that they play, before and during the different points of the game. But Clemson doesn't really have a huge like tradition of having a jump around or an Enter Sandman. Like that's not how. That's just not how they do things. I mean, a lot of it has been, and honestly, a lot of Clemson's, hype and, cheers and all sorts of things are band oriented. So it's that's just kind of how it goes. I mean, I guess you could say like Mo Bamba for a long time, as when I was there, when that song first came out, they played that a ton. And that was an interesting time, especially being on the hill, and you're surrounded by a bunch of white kids and you hear them say the N-word, but it was fun. that's what it was. But that
oh man,
like that's probably the closest, because they played Mo Bamba incessantly during those years. But like other than that, like there's not like a song I would say Clemson is known for.
Yeah. What's the odds that Cade wins the Heisman?
I mean, you want me to like say give a number? I mean, I can pull up the sports book.
Yeah, no, I think he's asking for our number.
I mean, how do you put odds on an award that, one, your school has never won before, and then two, like, this far out, and with there not being a very obvious Heisman pick this year, like I think it's a very open race. Like you have obviously you have Cade Klubnik, you have Garrett Nussmeier, you have Jeremiah Smith. Arch Manning is obviously high on a lot of people's boards, even though he's hardly played, but that's just how it is. Sam Levitt, who showed a lot of promise last year at Arizona State. There's a lot of guys just kind of thrown into that mix. So like to give odds right now is crazy. I mean, I think it's well within the possibility for Cade, and that's about as far as I'm willing to go with it. But I don't think Clemson needs or Cade needs to win the Heisman for me to feel good about Clemson's chances of, accomplishing what I think this team could accomplish. But that's just me. That's kind of a cop-out answer, but that's just one of them.
If I had to put a percentage on it, I would say like 10% at best.
Yeah, you
you
put a number on it, so I'll roll with 10%. Sure, we'll say
10% chance he wins the Heisman. One, he plays for Clemson, so that's one mark against him. Two, Dabo's not going to pad his stats just to get him a Heisman Trophy. So saying blowouts or things like that, like Cade's not going to be in the game. Like some of these other players that stay in games late to pad stats. That's not going to happen. Yeah. Dabo won't do that. Never done it in the past. Probably won't start now. So I just don't. I think I don't think it'll happen. Tiggs here says, does Bill Belichick plan to destroy the reputation of the Tar Heels by this engagement? Could this be a real thing?
I think a lot of it is overblown. I think Bill Belichick does coach this year. I think a lot of that has been media driven. Now, I do think there certainly have been some concerns, I think, internally at UNC about the girlfriend situation and all of that, but I don't think it's to the point where they're like, okay, we need to get him out of here. I think they're handling that internally. And
I think North Carolina's addressed some of those internally as well, with the concerns of how involved she is with this or that or the other. So I think they've put some new added guardrails on things like that. So, I mean, I much like you think it's a lot of nothing. I think it's fun to talk about in the offseason, but I do think Bill Belichick wants to coach football, and I think he'll be coaching for North Carolina. Now, how long he'll be at North Carolina
and how well it goes.
How well it goes, those are two different things.
Yeah.
And I would put money on whatever NFL team comes calling first, he's gone. North Carolina will not be able to keep him out of the NFL if they come calling. That I feel pretty certain about. But the whole thing, like him not coaching a game, like I don't see that happening. I think he does want to coach football. Do I think he wants to be coaching college football? No, not really. But he's going to do it until he gets another opportunity in the NFL, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think there's much there.
David Wood says, on game day, is Tom Allen in the booth?
I would expect no. I would expect him to be on the
sideline. I think Dabo told – excuse me. I think Dabo, when he was asked about it by one of the reporters, said that it is Tom Allen's decision. So
I'm just basing it off of his previous stops. He was on the field at Penn State. He was on obviously as a coach. He was very animated on the sideline. He's always been a sideline coach throughout his career. I expect him to be on the sideline. I think John mentioned it in the chat earlier, but you could see
Tom Jr. up there.
Yeah, you could see his son upstairs. I think that would make a lot of sense.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see that happening. I know he was upstairs a little bit, like at Penn State, right? Mm-hmm. But I would prefer him on the sideline.
Me too.
Just with the energy and just the kind of intensity that he brings to a game, I think that's important. I think offensive coordinators can be up in the booth.
Yeah.
But I
think
you
see that a lot. Tony Elliott was in the booth.
Yeah, defensive coordinators, I think it's a different breed. It takes a different type of coach to be a defensive coordinator. You have to come with a certain level of intensity and passion and just like a little tinge of crazy in there. And that works best on the sideline, like talking to your players face to face, not, from a phone or whatever. So I just think personally, and I'll never be a head coach for any significant football team ever. But if I was, my defensive coordinator would always be on the sideline. No questions asked. They're just two very different coaching styles with offense and defense.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Yeah, this is where I'm at, Isaac. I don't think we'll ever have a Heisman Trophy winner. Deshaun should have got one. He absolutely should have.
Yeah. I mean, statistically, like the odds say Clemson should get one when they're a program that recruits at the level they do and gets as many quality players as they do. I think the odds say it should happen at some point. But then again, it's at some point. It doesn't mean it's in the near future. So who knows? But I just don't spend too much time thinking about the Heisman.
I don't care about it. And part of that is like, being a little jaded from them completely, I think, ripping Deshaun Watson off for not giving him a Heisman Trophy. Like, look at that dude's career. Like, you're telling me that dude wasn't a Heisman Trophy winner? Like, whatever. But it's just like, to me, the Heisman is such a watered down award now. It's just about stats and whoever ESPN's talking about the most, frankly. Like, that's what it seems like. It's a popularity award at this point. It's a stats and a popularity award, and that's it. Like, half the voters they couldn't even tell you the first thing about college football. They couldn't tell you about the teams. They couldn't tell you who's good and who's not. Like, they legit, like, I think most of the Heisman voters don't watch football. They just, like, turn on ESPN when it's time to vote and be like, who are they talking about? Yeah. Oh, yeah, let me vote for that guy. I don't even know who that guy is, right? Like, that's what I feel like it. Like, I think the Heisman Trophy could become more prestigious again, But in my opinion, what they need to do is clean out some of those voters. You don't need all those voters voting for the Heisman Trophy. And until then, I think it's just a popularity and a stats award. It is what it is. And maybe that's what they want it to be. And if that's what they want it to be, then cool, whatever. But I just think it doesn't mean what it used to mean, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, it's not worth spending time. And I mean, you think of a school like, or I mean, a coach like Lincoln Riley, who's had 3 Heisman winners, and
right, nothing to show for it. I'd rather have a national championship than a Heisman
none of them.
Trophy.
He hasn't won a. Yep.
So, although I'd love to see Cade win the Heisman Trophy, I hope he does. But I'd much rather have the national championship trophy at the end of the season.
Yep.
John Sarin says, you could tell the media voters are itching to give it to Arch. Like I said, it's a popularity contest. Absolutely.
Yep.
If he even remotely plays anywhere close to where they think he can be, he'll get that Manning bump. And that's of no fault to his own. Like, he didn't ask for that. Like,
yeah,
I don't blame him personally. But he definitely gets a lot of benefit of the doubt because of the name on the back of his jersey. And I get it. I really do. So I'm not complaining about it. It just is what it is. Jay says he would rather Cade not win it because that would mean that we didn't improve enough in the run game to even compliment him. Might have a point there.
Maybe. I don't know if that's. I don't think that's necessarily the case, but
right. But I get your thought process. I can see where you're coming from there. John Sarin says, has Arch even thrown 100 college passes yet? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how many passes he's thrown.
I do not know the
answer. They brought him in to do a lot of run packages last year, so I don't know. Like, I know he started when was hurt, but I honestly couldn't tell you how many passes he threw. He looks decent when he was in the limited time he was in there. So
he's thrown. He's thrown 95.
95. Well, almost 100. There you go.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think he's going to be a good quarterback. I do.
I do too.
But definitely a little overblown because of who he is.
Yeah. And it's a Sark system. I mean, it's hard not to.
Yeah, I mean, look,
productive. And
his system is built for a quarterback to excel. They're going to put up big numbers. What second I buy a life insurance policy on Bill Belichick? I don't know. Maybe you can go try.
Yeah. Why not? I mean, why not?
Oh Lord, I didn't mean to do that. But I've lost my place now. See, Jordan, this is why you do this and not me.
Yeah. We're all on the struggle bus right now. It is what it is until we get StreamYard completely back up, and I gotta get back in because it doesn't. Normally, I would just click on it and I'd be already logged in, and I'd have all my backgrounds and everything. But we are struggling. But you were at you got it.
Overrated LSU going to walk the dog on y'all and playing cupcakes against SEC teams. 0-3 against SEC teams last year. Seller's going to run circles around y'all again. That's 18.
I'm glad you were able to translate that because I was struggling.
I quit reading and just started to
fill in the gaps.
Insert my words there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I started questioning whether I could read or not for a second. I was like, am I stupid?
Is this what dyslexia is like?
Yeah,
Is this what they go through every day?
Am I having a stroke? Is it?
Yeah.
That's my butt toe.
Let me draw a clock real quick.
Hold on. Wait. Is my face drooping? Look at my face. But LSU walking the dog on us. We play cupcakes. Of course, we're in the ACC. Of course, that's what we do. How else are we supposed to get to 6 straight college football playoffs and 4 national championships and win 2 of them? If we didn't play cupcakes, we would have never made it there.
Yeah,
everybody knows that.
Everybody knows.
But yeah, it's a take. I appreciate you stopping by, Billy. I'm just giving you a hard time. It's all love. But no Shador. Lenore Sellers is not going to.
They don't all look alike.
Quarterback.
We don't all look alike, man. Yeah. Come on now.
Yeah, I tried. He'll probably get drafted higher than Shador.
I'm missing. All right.
Oh, I'm gonna leave that there because whatever. But no, he won't. Rob says he thinks Lagway plays better than Arch this year. I mean, it's possible.
I think it's possible. Lagway has a year up.
I think the one thing Arch does have going for him is that he's been in that system, just kind of sitting and learning, right? So it's not like he's year one learning a system. He's been in there a while, but Lagway, is his arm good? I know at one point he wasn't throwing in the spring. What's going on with him?
I think they expect him to be.
He was great last year, when he was healthy. Definitely, Florida needs him to be healthy, or Billy Napier might get fired if he goes down.
Yeah, I mean they have. This is the first year they've had real expectations in a while. I mean, this is. If there's any year Billy Napier is going to establish himself, this is the year. They have a lot of talent coming back, a lot of experience. This is the best offensively that they've had. Best group of skill position talent that they've had in quite a while. They have a lot returning on the offensive line, and obviously Lagway. While it was up and down last year. The flashes were phenomenal, and he showed a lot of why he was so highly regarded. And why Clemson really wanted him. Imagine a quarterback room, a world where Clemson lands DJ Lagway and he gets to sit behind Cade Klubnik. Oh, and obviously you still have Chris Vizina in the quarterback room as well.
Yeah.
That would be special. That'd be truly special, but wasn't meant to be.
Wasn't meant to be. Oh well, almost. Billy says we're overrated rednecks. Now, Billy,
I cannot classify as a redneck, Billy. So,
I assure you, Jordan does not have a redneck. I may have a redneck, but it's not my fault because the sun don't agree with my skin. That's not my fault. I was born this way. Okay, but I do not identify. Oh man! Stop playing. Yeah, that's good. I appreciate you, Billy. You bring the comedic relief.
Yes, I enjoy your comments.
Yes, I do. Corey D says, "I have a feeling Notre Dame is going to win it all." What say you, Jordan?
They wouldn't be my pick, but I really do think that they have a solid core group around who I presume is going to be CJ Carr will be the starter. Everything seems to point that way, but I don't know. Kenny Minchie might have something to say about that, but
yeah,
I think they're going to have a good group. They're going to have a really good defense again. I think I believe. I mean, the talent's there. Obviously, they're replacing the coordinator, but Chris Ash is a guy that is a respected defensive mind, and he spent time in the NFL. So we'll see if that transition from Al Golden to Chris Ash, the defense, and Marcus Freeman is still the head coach. Like, so you always have to keep that in mind too. And
absolutely,
he's always going to have his hands on that defense. So,
yeah.
I don't know. I think they're going to be a really good team. I think they're going to be right there in the mix for that college football playoff again. But I think it'll depend on if CJ Carr comes out, as a first-year starter and really puts them over the edge, because Riley Leonard was good enough to get them there, but he wasn't good enough to win them one.
No, he couldn't. His passing ability wasn't good enough to compete once they got there.
But CJ Carr,
we'll see. Yeah, I mean, year one,
the talent's there
for sure. But again, it's a big environment to step into.
Yeah.
Tiger Tom's got a good question. He said, "How would you guys compare Nussmeier to Klubnik?"
I think that's a good question. These are two of the premier quarterbacks in the sport heading into this year. Obviously, going to be facing off. I've watched a good bit of Garrett Nussmeier, and I had obviously during the offseason has given me a lot of time to really, watch LSU. I mean, I watched them at times throughout the year, but I didn't spend a whole lot. I didn't watch every single game and watch every minute of every single game, but getting to watch Nussmeier, I mean, I think you really start to appreciate kind of what he is. It's very obvious what he is and what he isn't. I think is the first thing I would say about him. And I think first things first, like the positives, I mean, that guy can make any throw. Like he is capable of beating you at all levels of the defense. He can make any throw you ask him to, in tight windows. I think that's something he did a lot last year, and I don't think he got enough credit for. Was just his ability to make his willingness to make any throw. Now that did mean he threw more picks, but I think what he brought to that offense was playmaking ability in an offense that couldn't run the ball. And the receiving talent was, I mean, LSU's receivers are never bad, but obviously I think they were a step down from the previous year. You lose a guy like you lose guys like Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. But I thought he did a lot for that offense, and and it was kind of a tough situation because that offensive line wasn't very good and they couldn't run the ball. So I think you appreciate that aspect of his game, and he made some plays out of nothing too. I mean, he's not a guy that's going to beat you with his legs. He's definitely a pocket quarterback, but I think one of the things that he has the potential to be even better at this year is making plays outside of structure. I think
he's not going to be, he's not a huge runner, right? But using his legs when he has to in third down situations and stuff like that will go a long way in helping his team out this year versus a guy like Cade that he's got some wheels. He can really, really hurt you.
Running, Cade, I mean, running is a part of Cade Klubnik's game. Yes. Garrett, it's very much like he's a guy that he's capable. He's not the greatest athlete in the world, but he's capable. Yeah. But he's obviously going to want to do his damage in the pocket, and he has the ability to make all kinds of throws. He's you'll see him throw at different arm slots with some weird angles to fit balls in. So I do think that's something that. I think he is going to be one of the top quarterbacks available next year. Like I don't think he's like an overhyped prospect or anything like that. Like when you watch him play, you see the ability, and he's been in college football a while now. So when you couple all those things together, it makes him a really dangerous threat. And I think that offense is going to go how he goes this year, because he's just he does so much for that offense, and his arm talent is very apparent. But obviously the weakness is he's going to turn the ball over. He's going
to try to put it in the windows that aren't there. And the one thing for Clemson, talking, just kind of tying it in with week 1 and that big game, Clemson's defense got to capitalize on those mistakes because he's going to try to force it. At some point in that time in that game, he's going to try to force the ball, and that's when your defense has got to make him pay.
Yep. And that's the thing. Like, I mean, if you can make this LSU offense one-dimensional, I think that's, you know, when they couldn't run the ball last year, they struggled because so much of the onus was on Nussmeier and that passing offense that just it was capable, but they didn't have a ton of nearly as many explosive plays as they did the year before, and they weren't hitting those big plays. So a lot of it was Nuss, making something out of nothing.
Yeah.
So if I do think they upgraded a good bit at the skill positions in the transfer portal. So but we'll see kind of how that group meshes, in the first week of the season. So, that was a really long answer between the two of us, but they're different. They're very different players, but they both bring a lot to their respective offenses. And I think Nussmeier is going to be the guy that gets more love from draft guys, potentially just because the physical tools are better. I think he's got a stronger arm. But and he's obviously a little bit bigger than Cade is. So I think when you couple those things together, like I think from a draft standpoint, Nussmeier might be a guy that scouts like over Cade. But I do think Cade's ability, athleticism, which I think is being severely underrated, I think by a lot of people, when you consider how much his legs impacted Clemson last year. But when you consider Cade's athleticism and honestly just the processing ability that he showed and the growth in the career, the trajectory that he's been on since the beginning of last season, I do think that is something to contend with as well. So anything like that. I don't know if I just cut out or not.
No, it caught back up. You're good.
Okay.
All right, Intelligent Savage got a question. Who is your most improved cornerback and linebacker from the 2025-2026 campaign, if you had to choose one today?
Most improved linebacker, cornerback and linebacker?
Most improved cornerback, most improved linebacker this upcoming season.
Is it cheating to say Khalil Barnes, even though he's probably,
I don't think so.
Even though he's nickel safety, like I could say Shelton Lewis because he just was flat out hurt. I don't know. Cornerback's tough because I think Avion Terrell is going to be Avion Terrell. I mean, I'm excited to see what Ashton Hampton is in year 2, but like the most improved, I don't know, because you really didn't rely on. I mean, you rode those guys heavy, those two guys heavy last year. You didn't really play the other guys in
if you're hopeful for like some quality depth, maybe like a Brandon Strozier.
Yeah. Brandon Strozier, Corian Gibson. I'll say Corian Gibson because I think he had a good spring.
One of those guys take the next step forward.
Yeah.
Just for quality depth behind your first two guys that are going to run out there. So yeah, that's what I would go with. One of those guys.
I'll say Corian Gibson for corner, and then linebacker. Man, most improved. Okay. Wade Woodaz is. I mean, I definitely think he could take a, kind of have a bounce back season in a way, but most improved.
Most improved. I mean, you can't really go Kobe McLeod because he was hurt all year.
He was hurt. Yeah, that'd be kind of cheating. Obviously, you still have D. Creighton in the mix.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Alexander feels like cheating because he's a transfer. So,
yeah.
I mean, I guess you could say Jeremiah Alexander because he didn't play much at Alabama last year.
I think that's who you would have to go with. I don't really think anybody else is gonna like significantly jump out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I would go Jeremiah Alexander there.
Yeah, I feel like that's got to be the pick because it just. And I don't know how obviously Kobe McLeod's coming back from injury. Maybe it's D Creighton, who knows? But or one of the younger guys like a Drew Woodaz or a CJ Kuba Taylor. But I'm not. I think those guys still have a little bit of a ways to go. And it seems like the coach, just based on what we've seen, throughout the spring, but that doesn't. It doesn't mean they can't make that jump, and it would be nice because you do want to have that quality depth. But I think Jeremiah Alexander probably has the highest, boom potential of the reserves right now, like immediately this year. Like it would not surprise me if we come, we're at the end of the season. It's like, wow, Jeremiah Alexander was one of your best players on defense. Like that'd be great. And it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world because the talent, the ability, the physical ability, and athleticism is there. So, yeah, I'll say Alexander.
All right, couple more, and then we're gonna get out of here, Jordan. John says, "What's the next top 5 list?" I suggest top coaches for recruiting in the Dabo era, starting about the Chad Morris time. We could do something like that.
I think that'd be a fun one.
Like the coaches, like the top 5 players they've recruited. Like, is that what we're?
No, I think he just says just the top 5 recruiters in the
top
Dabo
5 recruiters of the Dabo era. Okay, yeah. I got you. Yeah, we could do something like that. That'd be fun.
Definitely would have like. I mean, shoot, you could throw out the names. I mean, I would think Mike Reed would be on there. You'd have guys like Dan Brooks and Marion Hobby when they were the 2 defensive line coaches. Jeff Scott, obviously. I mean, we could go through the list, but that'll be something to put a pin in.
All right, we'll finish up with this last one from John, and then we'll hop up out of here. Thank you guys so much for being with us tonight. He says, "Who do you think is the most overhyped, or the two most in the ACC this year?" He's picking Louisville and Miami, maybe. So overhyped teams in the ACC this year. I guess we could go overhyped in all of college football, or we could do ACC. But the 2 most overhyped teams this year. Let's see. Who's getting a lot of hype in the ACC?
I think North Carolina. I mean, I don't know if it's hype, but it's too much attention. I don't know. I don't know if hype is the right word.
Yeah.
I mean, Miami and Louisville are probably like the obvious picks.
Let me see ACC.
But I don't know if they're, but they might be. ACC. I don't know how I feel about Louisville and Miami yet. So it's hard to say if they're overhyped right now. Like I have not formulated fully my opinion on either of those teams.
We'll go. I'll try to help us out a little bit here with win totals.
Honestly, I mean SMU.
Louisville sitting at 8.5 for the win total.
Man, that seems about
Miami,
right.
8.5 for their win total. SMU 8.5 as well. Florida State 7.5. Georgia Tech 7.5. North Carolina 7.5. I think that's too much. I don't know. I'd have to look at their schedule though.
Yeah.
NC State 6.5 Virginia 6.5. God, Stanford's at 3.5. Good Lord.
I mean, their whole team left, and they fired their coach. Well, their coach resigned, so that changes a lot of things. Man, honestly, it might be SMU because even though I think SMU is going to be good, they lost a lot. Like they bring back
their entire offensive line.
Yeah, their whole offensive line's gone.
Yeah. I'm gonna say SMU at 8.5 or 8.5 win total.
Like, it wouldn't surprise me if SMU was like only like a 6, 7.
Like a middle of the road ACC team this year.
Yeah.
I think they're getting a lot of love for making the ACC championship game last year, which makes sense. They should. And their quarterback's really good, but I don't know. You lose an entire offensive line.
They lost a lot, man.
That could spell trouble for your offense.
Yeah, I'm thinking it might be SMU, but I'm gonna put a pin on that because I might just be trying to be different, and maybe it is Louisville or Miami, but I don't know. It's hard to deny the trajectory. As much as we like to make fun of Miami, it's hard to – you can't deny that they've improved every single year under Mario.
Yeah.
It hasn't been to the level that obviously the way they finished last year was disappointing, but they still won 10 games. So I don't know.
I mean, Miami could be the pick because, I mean –
it's Miami and –
It's Mario too. It ain't just Miami. Like, Mario's got a track record of not,
meeting expectations. Yeah,
getting it done.
Yeah,
when he's got really high expectations and a really good roster.
And Carson Beck didn't even throw in the spring.
Not that he never will or he's incapable of it, but he does have a track record of blowing some games, especially some boneheaded clock management situations, dating all the way back to his time at Oregon.
Yep.
Just weird in-game coaching decisions. But again, I mean, you really got to pick from those teams because those teams have the highest win totals. Like, I can't say a team with a win total of 5.5 is overrated. So you really got to pick from those top teams. Some people may say Clemson. They're getting too much hype.
I guess you could argue that if you feel that way, but 9.5 with the level of production they have, I think is probably.
Yeah, I don't think that's outrageous.
Yeah.
I do wish some of the national media would stop talking about Clemson.
Yeah,
I do wish that. So,
I did see some.
Not that I think they're wrong or I think they're bad, but
I did see some Cade Klubnik slander from a draft guy.
Yeah, let's amplify that.
Yeah, let's amplify that.
Let's amplify that as much as possible.
All right, let's do a couple more and then get on out of here. It's getting late. Yeah, I keep forgetting. I could talk on here for hours, but we
started an hour later.
Yeah. I like this question from Thomas. It's kind of towards the bottom. It's like forward. Wish I could click on it.
Right here?
Yeah. He said, what would it do for our confidence if we beat LSU by 2+ touchdowns? I mean, shoot. I mean, I'm not predicting it, but I think it's within the cards that if Clemson is as good as we think they are and LSU, maybe they do end up being as good as they potentially could be, but it's not at that moment. And Clemson just puts it on them.
I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Clemson's playing, they're coming to Death Valley, right? The atmosphere is going to be absolutely insane. A lot of juice in the game. And if Clemson handles that properly, I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility that they get beat by multiple scores. I would not put it out of the realm. Because also LSU, you would assume they are going to be an improved team and they're going to be better and they're going to live up to the expectations that are being set forth for them. But again, let's remember, a lot of these pieces are new to LSU. A lot of these pieces are transfer portal pieces. It's not always instant. It doesn't always work out the way that you think it's going to just because you got X amount of big names in the portal. Not that it won't work out. It may work out perfectly for LSU, like it did Florida State a couple years ago, right? But not that I'm predicting that they'll have the fall that Florida State did the following season, right? But that's always a possibility. Like there is always an unknown when you are heavily relying on the portal to replace pieces that you lost. So that's always in the realm of possibility. And week one is not a great time, right? Like you're still trying to figure stuff out, and probably even more so in LSU's case because they are bringing in a bunch of new talent from the portal that are learning new systems and trying to gel with the team. And that doesn't always show up week one, right? Which is why you get a lot of cupcake games in week one to try to, figure out what you are as a team. But it's going to be a big game, and it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility. What it would do for the confidence, I mean, through the roof. Like it would completely flip the narrative. Well, some of the narratives that are out there about Clemson, right? The 0-3 record against the SEC and blah, 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 right? The downfall of Dabo, college football passed them by, all that stuff, right? Like, so there would be an immediate impact from that standpoint. But the important thing would be is how do they handle that level of added expectations that will inevitably come if you do that? And do you start reading your press clippings too soon?
Yeah.
So it would be important how Clemson handled that. But their confidence would deservedly so go through the roof. We would be on an extreme high, both the team and probably us as fans as well. But it'd be a little too early in the season to start talking reckless.
Yeah.
Can't talk reckless after week one.
Game.
Yeah, you can't talk reckless after week one. But I would want to if we beat them by 2 touchdowns. Probably be a little bit more trash talk just because it's LSU and the whole, Death Valley thing and that sort of stuff. So, they'll get theirs if we beat them. When we beat them, sorry. Let's see. Any last ones you want to hit, Jordan?
Let's hit this one from David. He says, "What about best and worst hires of the Dabo era?" That I think that's a great one too, because we could do a whole show on the best hires and the worst hires. It's farther up.
Okay.
From Thomas's.
Farther up. There it is. Best and worst hires of the Dabo era. Yeah, we could definitely do that. That'd be a good one.
Yep.
We got to write these ideas down before.
Yeah. So we have top 5 recruiters and top 5 best and worst hires of the Dabo era, I think.
Right.
All right.
I think that'll do it. Shout out to our resident LSU fan, Billy, in the chat section.
Billy's not an LSU fan; he's a South Carolina fan.
Well, same.
That's why he brought up Sellers earlier.
He's an SEC fan. They're all the same. They don't have any teams; they just root for a conference.
And we actually do have a Notre Dame fan in the chat, Joe. We've seen him around the Voice of College Football Network. Good to have you. So
Joe said the SEC died the day Saban retired.
Yeah. I did enjoy a little bit of that Notre Dame beat down to Georgia. I gotta say
it was pretty great.
That was pretty great.
Yeah. But shout out to our resident South Carolina fan, Billy. Thanks for stopping by. We know we play cupcakes. We got it. We hear it all the time. It's all good. Including South Carolina. That's one of our cupcakes.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's why we hate it when we lose. So the rare times we lose.
It's not good to lose the cupcakes. And
No.
every now and then we slip up and do it. It's not good.
No.
But y'all have a great night. We still got 31 people in the live chat. Thank you so much for being here tonight and supporting the show by just your presence. Hit that like button on your way out. If you have not already, consider subscribing. You don't have to be a Clemson fan. You can even be a South Carolina fan like Billy. That's unfortunate, but, we all can't be perfect. But we'll see you guys next week. Wednesday, new show start time is 9 p.m. Okay, so from this point forward, we will be starting the show at 9 p.m., but same night, Wednesday night right here for the All-In Show. Appreciate all of you guys showing up. Thank you for stopping in for your weekly dose of all things Clemson football. Until next time, I'm Tiger Paul Craven. He's Jordan Bowman. Go Tigers.
Later, y'all.